So for your checklist of questions, highlights, room lights, and background lights, just going over this. So the question is going to be, first of all, does it look like there's any light on the background? If there's separation, if you can see the subject from the background, why is that? Is that because the main light is lighting them lighter than the background? Or is it because there's a highlight on the background? Or is it because there's a highlight on them? Something's giving them separation. What is it? So a background light we talked about before. Here's no background light, no separation. So the left-hand side of the face blends in with the background. But then we add in this case, it was a grid, a 20-degree grid. Actually, this was probably 10-degree grid, and it adds separation, cuts them out on the side. Can I do something real quick with a demo? I just want to tell you about a type of light that I like. Can we put the grid on that one real quick? Okay, so this brings up a lighting setup that I really like for drama. I made up this name, but I don't think I did. I think I heard it someplace, but I don't know if it's a real thing. So we're just calling it this, and we're all going to agree, okay? I call it checkerboard lighting. Reason I call it checkerboard lighting, so we take a look at this photo. The highlight side of the face, white, is against the shadow side of the background. So there's one checkerboard. But then the shadow side of the face is against the highlight side of the background. So it goes black, white, and I see this a lot in like older portraiture, and it creates drama. And I was in Vegas last week, and I went to a Yusuf Karsh, a Karsh exhibition. And if you don't know Karsh's work, look it up. Oh my gosh, his control over light is mind-blowing. Like, I'm staring at these photos, and I'm just like, I'm seeing what he's doing, but it's just that good. And he did this a lot, where he would put a highlight side of the face or a shadow side of the face against just the tiniest highlight on the background, just enough so that this dramatic shadow doesn't just blend in. And they just pop it beautifully. So I'll have you turn it off to start with. Let me get this. So I'm going to have you turn your body a little bit this way. And let's go a little bit more dramatic. So I'm going to go tiny bit of short light. Good, so it'll be like loop short light. And let's take, oh, and this is why modeling lights are good. Taking a look, I'm getting a whole lot of light on my background. So this would be a perfect example of when I might use a grid. A grid helps me out, or what he was grabbing was the flag, right? We've talked about these solutions that you have. So let's pop the grid on, because now, can you see it already? You put the grid on, none of that light's hitting the background. Yeah. Oh gosh. I think it's a little bent.
I'll get it. Good.
All right, so perfect, we got it. All right, so let's take a look with that grid on. Let's see, short light, perfect. So pretty. Okay, so this is short light loop. And let me double click. So you can see the entire right-hand side of the frame goes to complete shadow, which if you wanted to, I mean, that's fine, but usually you want a little bit of definition. Where I find this to be particularly poignant or important is if you've got a subject posing, okay? Let's say I've got my short light here, and I've got a curve, and I've got my hand up. Everything from here back is solid black. You don't see any of this, so you don't see the shape, you don't see the definition. One option is to use barn doors or a strip softbox from behind and separate out. But it creates a really beautiful drama to light the background instead, because you get that checkerboard highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow. So let's put a highlight on the background. Yeah, let's try 5.8, yeah. All right, good. And chin towards me a little, right there. Good. So what this does is it puts a little highlight in the background, so now you can see her neck. And if I didn't want to use, what degree grid is that?
This is the 5.
So if I didn't want to use a 5, if I wanted it to be more of a highlight that was around her entire hair or her shoulder, then I could use a 20. Or I could use a softbox and feather it. So instead of just pointing the softbox at the background, I could angle it so it would only light the side of the face, or the background on the side of the face that's dark. So highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow. The reason that was so inspired by this, like I said, if you look up Karsh and then look up Churchill, so the famous Churchill photo, he just plays with these highlights, shadows against one another, and it's so masterful and beautiful. But you'd have to be able to see, oh, on the shadow side of the face, when you look at this portrait, shadow side of the face, he's got a highlight to separate from the background instead of using a rim light on that side. So analyzing that. Okay, so I'm going to pop back to presentation. I just wanted to show that setup. So here. Okay, so we talked about background light. You can put it just behind the subject to glow, or you can just flat light the background. There's not a right or wrong answer. Sometimes you use softboxes if I want it to be nice and even. And then if I want it to have kind of a radiating look, I'll use a grid. There's no right or wrong answer. So let's pop next onto the rim reflector. Let's just compare these again. So you see what the silver did, nice and defined, whereas the white, much softer. Everything we talked about already. Modifiers, barn doors, very crisp. A little bit more even when you use the strip. You see that? How it's just a little bit more even? There's the barn doors. Hotter on the temple and then not as bright on the jaw. That strip just evens it out a little bit. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's a slightly easier modifier to use for a rim light. And then multiple rim lights, just, there could be one that's a reflector, one that's a strip softbox. And the point is, even if you can't exactly tell which one it is, if the goal is just to recreate it, just get it close. So maybe the silver reflector is going to be enough to give you the contrast and definition. Or maybe the barn doors are what you have to use to get that razor sharp. Or maybe it's a strip softbox and then you use cinefoil or V-flats to narrow it down to be crisp enough to help you get the look of the barn doors. And just to know the tools that are available to you. All right, and let's take a look at a placement of that rim light. So we're going to do the axis front to back. So there is when it's from a back angle, moving it forward a little bit more, gets bigger and gets wider, and then becomes a side fill light as we move it around, and then the height of the light once again. So nothing on the shoulder, then we'll have it on the shoulder and the temple, and then as we raise it up, now look, it's on the top of the hair as well. So that's how you can utilize your strip softboxes. Okay, so I will pause really quick on the rim lights, and so basically what your goal is just to say, if the subject is separated from the background somehow, how are they? Is it the main light hitting the background? Is there a light emanating from the background? Is the background lit, or is it a rim light? If it's a rim light, is it so high up that it's hitting the hair? Is it so low that it's not getting the shoulder? Is it wrapping around the face so it's maybe from a more front axis, or is it from behind so it's very, very narrow? Is it a strip softbox because it's nice and even and it wraps, or maybe it's barn doors because it's nice and narrow and razor sharp? Those are the questions you're asking yourself.